When I was 17, my mother forced me to leave home so she could focus on her new family. Years later, she came begging for money to cover her new kids' college expenses, and my response left her speechless. My mom was only 20 when she had me, barely out of her teens. My father was a fleeting figure, barely worth a mention. She said he disappeared the moment he learned she was pregnant. They weren't serious, so she let him go without ever seeking child support. No legal battles, no demands. She claimed it was simpler that way, and as a child I accepted it. I grew up knowing I didn't have a dad, and that was just my reality. My grandparents and my mom raised me. My grandparents were my rock, stepping in whenever needed and helping her stabilize her life. She completed her education, landed a stable job, and for a while our life felt normal for a single-parent home. She dated occasionally, but those relationships fizzled out until she met Tom. I was about 8 when he entered our lives. I still remember her coming home, glowing with excitement like she'd found her soulmate. As a kid, I didn't overthink it. I was just glad she seemed happy. When Tom became a regular presence, I didn't mind much. He wasn't cruel or controlling. Sometimes he'd play catch with me or take me to the park. Nothing extraordinary, just typical stuff. By the time I was 12, they got married. I didn't feel particularly close to Tom, but I didn't resent him either. He was just there, part of the routine. We got along fine, not some idyllic family, but there were no major conflicts, at least not initially. But after the wedding, something shifted. My mom started to distance herself subtly at first. She spent more time with Tom, less with me. I'd enter a room, and their conversations would pause like I wasn't supposed to hear. If I asked, she'd dismiss it as grown-up matters. Maybe that's normal, but to a kid, it felt like being pushed out. The shift became undeniable when I was 16. My mom and Tom announced they were expecting twins. Suddenly, they were their own little family, and I felt like an outsider. I tried to be supportive, happy for her. She'd worked hard raising me, and I thought this was her chance at the family she'd always dreamed of. But looking back, I was naive. As her pregnancy progressed, I felt increasingly sidelined. I'd offer to help or ask how she was, only to be met with irritation. She'd snap at me to stop hovering or say I was adding to her stress. I figured it was just the strain of carrying twins, so I backed off, giving her the space she seemed to want. Then the twins arrived, and everything fell apart. I came home from school one day to a house transformed, baby items everywhere my mom and Tom consumed with their new roles. I felt invisible. I understood newborns demanded attention, but it was as if I no longer existed. Every conversation, every plan, every meal revolved around the twins. I tried to step up to be the helpful big brother, but no one noticed. Especially not my mom. When I asked her to attend one of my soccer games, she acted like it was an impossible request. "The twins need me," she'd say. Eventually, I stopped asking, stopped expecting anything. Then came the day they sat me down at the kitchen table. Their faces were grim, like they were about to deliver life-changing news. I thought maybe we were relocating. Instead, it was worse. "We need to discuss your future," my mom started. Tom chimed in about how stretched they were, money, time, everything, because of the twins. I nodded, waiting for the point. Then she said it. "We think it's time for you to find somewhere else to live." I was stunned. Move out? I was 16 without a license, a real job, or a plan. Tom tried to soften it, saying it wasn't exactly that, but it was. They framed it as fostering my independence, but it was clear I was being pushed out. I pleaded, offering to work more, help more, anything, but my mom dismissed it. "The twins need us more," she said. "You'll manage." The decision was final. I packed a bag and went to my grandparents' house. No heartfelt farewell, no promises to keep in touch, just gone. My grandparents took me in without question. They didn't pry, but I could tell they were heartbroken over my mom's actions. Their quiet disappointment in her spoke volumes. Life with them was stable, but I knew I couldn't stay forever. They were getting older, and I didn't want to burden them. I was juggling high school and a low-paying part-time job, all while grappling with the fact that my own mother had discarded me. It was heavy. Meanwhile, I heard through the grapevine that my mom and Tom were thriving, doting on the twins like they were royalty, acting like I'd never existed. No calls, no birthday messages, no sign they cared if I was even alive. When I turned 18, reality hit. My grandparents couldn't afford college tuition, and I refused to lean on them more. If I was going to college, it'd be on my terms. I applied for every scholarship, grant, and loan I could find. My aunt stepped up, co-signing a student loan that gave me a shot. College was grueling, classes, 2 jobs, late-night studying, and barely enough sleep to function. While others enjoyed the college experience, I was in survival mode. But I didn't care. I was used to fending for myself. My mom never reached out, not for my birthday, not when I got accepted, not during the stress of exams. When I graduated, only my grandparents and aunt were there. I scanned the crowd, half hoping to see her. She wasn't there. That's when it truly hit me. She didn't care, and she never would. Still, I kept going. I earned my degree, took on debt, and fueled myself with determination. I landed an entry-level job and rented a tiny apartment, cramped but mine. Those early years were tough, scraping by on cheap meals, but I was making it. Slowly, things improved. Promotions came and I started earning enough to save, to breathe. For the first time, I could plan a future without constant fear. Then out of nowhere, my mom reappeared. My aunt had mentioned my promotion at a family event, and that was enough to bring her to my doorstep, Tom in tow, both wearing fake smiles. "It's been so long," she said, as if we'd just missed a casual catch-up. I was floored. Part of me wanted an apology, an acknowledgement of her mistakes, but I wasn't that hopeful kid anymore. After some awkward small talk, she got to the point. She'd heard I was doing well, and she was so proud. Tom echoed her, acting like they'd always rooted for me. Then came the real reason they were struggling. Tom's business was failing, and the twins were heading to college. They needed money. I cut her off before she could finish. If this was about cash, they could leave. She acted offended, then launched into a sob story about her sacrifices as a single mom, how I owed her for raising me. I almost laughed. After abandoning me for years, she expected me to pay up. I told her I wasn't responsible for her choices or the twins' futures. That door was shut. She called me selfish, ungrateful, said I owed her respect. I told her she lost any claim to that when she kicked me out. They left angry, and I shut the door, shaken but resolute. I thought that was the end, but my mom wasn't done. Unable to call me, she was blocked. She flooded my inbox with emails. At first, they were soft. "I miss you. Let's not be strangers." When I didn't respond, they turned hostile. "You owe me everything," she wrote, painting herself as a saint and me as a traitor. I ignored them, hardened to her tactics. Then she escalated, showing up at my workplace while I was out sick. She caused a scene, claiming a family emergency, refusing to leave until security intervened and police were called. My boss told me later, and I was mortified. I called her, hoping to end it. Mistake. She ranted, blaming my coworkers, accusing me of disrespect, demanding I fix things. I told her showing up was unacceptable and to stop contacting me. She didn't. Her messages grew nastier, calling me heartless, a terrible son, saying I was abandoning my real family. Then she hit me with "you owe me," like I was a debt she was collecting. That was my breaking point. I told her I didn't ask to be born, didn't ask to be discarded, and owed her nothing. I hung up and blocked her new number. Still, she kept creating new email accounts, alternating between begging and berating. It was draining. I confided in my grandparents, reluctant to involve them but desperate. They were horrified, their disappointment in her palpable. They promised to talk to her, and for a while the emails stopped. The quiet was a relief until it wasn't. Weeks later, another email arrived, short and ominous. If I didn't meet her, she'd take other steps. The threat was clear. I forwarded it to my aunt, who was livid, and suggested I consult a lawyer. I did. The lawyer reviewed everything, emails, voicemails, the workplace incident, and said I had enough for a restraining order if needed. I sent my mom a final, formal email, warning her to stop or face legal consequences. I hoped that would end it. It didn't. One evening, I found her parked outside my apartment. She followed me up the stairs, voice shaking with emotion. "Is this really okay? After everything I did for you?" I was exhausted, done fighting. I turned to her. "You made your choice when you kicked me out. I don't owe you anything." She cried, insisting I was her son, that the twins deserved a future. I told her she stopped being my mom when she treated me like garbage. When she blocked my door begging, I pulled out my phone and threatened to call the police. That got through. Stunned, she spat, "You'll regret this when you're alone." Then she left. The next day, I contacted my lawyer and began the restraining order process. I handed over all evidence, and he confirmed it was more than enough. That moment felt different. I wasn't just reacting, I was taking control. She tried reaching out through my grandparents, spinning tales of my betrayal, but they saw through her. Even my aunt, always the peacemaker, told her to get help and stop treating me like an ATM. I'm now planning to move somewhere she can't find me. It's painful, but it's also liberating. I no longer feel guilty. She chose to erase me, to see me only as a solution to her problems. I chose to walk away permanently. The restraining order is in place. The emails have stopped. The phone is silent. I'm free. To anyone in a similar situation, you're allowed to protect your peace, even from family. You don't owe your sanity or future to anyone, blood or not. Let them call you selfish or cold. One day you'll realize choosing yourself was the best decision you ever made.